I talked a day or two ago about Thomas Sowell, and for me, it's sort of refreshing to do this in contrast with critical race theory. And of course, there's a new book out on Sowell. It's called Maverick, a biography of Thomas Sowell. It's written by the Wall Street Journal writer Jason Riley, and I've kind of been making my way through the book. But as I do, it also flashes my mind back to my friendship with Sowell over the years, and the way that he has been a mentor to me. Years ago, when I published my book, The End of Racism, this, by the way, is my most scholarly book. If you haven't read it, it's a giant book, several hundred pages, 2,000 footnotes. And the book was a little controversial because it talked about the reason why you have group differences in academic achievement and economic performance. It attributed those differences not to race, not to biology, but to culture. Even so, Glenn Lowry, prominent black scholar who was at that time affiliated with the American Enterprise Institute, another guy named Bob Woodson, resigned from AEI. They broke with AEI, and it was supposedly all over my horrible book. And at that time, I was, this was only my second book. I was a young scholar, so it was kind of problematic for me to have these luminaries distancing themselves from AEI. It was causing problems for AEI. But to my defense rushed the greatest black living scholar in the country, Thomas Sowell, who basically said that he had read the book extremely carefully, and it was the best book on race relations written since Gunnar Myrdal's classic work, An American Dilemma, published several decades earlier. Over the years, I got to know Sowell and his wife quite well. His wife is also an economist. And I thought it interesting as I would talk to them about racial discrimination, and they would go, Dinesh, when people think of race discrimination cases, they think of the sort of classic civil rights situation going back to the 50s and 60s. A black guy and a white guy apply for a job. The black guy is better qualified. The white guy gets the job. Hey, that's racial discrimination. And they go, out of 100 cases, Dinesh, today, only one or two are like that. The vast majority of cases have nothing to do with that at all. They are all based upon statistical issues of underrepresentation. So a black guy applies for a job. He's actually not qualified. He doesn't get the job. But then he sues and he claims that blacks are underrepresented in this corporation. And because blacks are, let's say, 12% of the surrounding population in San Jose, but he wasn't hired at this Silicon Valley company, they're obviously racist. They need to implement affirmative action policies. So both Sowell and his wife said that is actually the normative. That's the normal case that is now fought out in the courts. It really shows you that the old forms of discrimination that the civil rights movement was mobilized to fight are kind of gone. And there are now these new invented forms of discrimination that they're not only statistically bogus, but they're morally bogus. And I'm grateful to both Sowells, Thomas Sowell and his wife, for drawing my attention to this fact. Now, Sowell is somebody who, if he was not a conservative, would have been gotten offers from every Ivy League college. In fact, he is far superior in intellect and in his publishing record. Here's a guy who's written 36 books. He's a kind of a walking encyclopedia. And the thing about his books that I find so fascinating is that although he's an economist, his books aren't just about economics. He's well read in literature. He knows something about anthropology. His examples are drawn from history. So you have this kind of wide-ranging knowledge coming to play in his books. Sowell wasn't so much an original thinker, but what he was a great elucidator and a great explainer. One of his books, for example, called Knowledge and Decisions, popularizes Friedrich Hayek's theory of knowledge. Now, Friedrich Hayek has a brilliant and ingenious theory of knowledge. Essentially, the simple insight is this, that centralized authorities do not have enough information. However, even if they have supercomputers, to figure out what's really going on at the local level. You need decentralized decision-making because only the guy who lives at Lexington and Fifth knows what's going on at that intersection. The hot dog vendor who's there every day at that street corner, he knows. And Sowell was very good at this kind of example. He would take the Hayekian theory and he would show, giving example upon example drawn from contemporary life, drawn from literature, drawn from history, showing how the Hayekian principle works, how it can be applied to a wide range of situations. Decisions are best made at the local level. And I think if we look back, we'll find that this man, Thomas Sowell, has been one of the towering intellectuals of our time. Happily, he's on our side. And when you contrast his ideas with the shallow nostrums of critical race theory, it's embarrassing to even make the comparison.